Hello, this is episode number 16 of the Alfology2 podcast. Welcome back. As promised, we have a solo episode this week, just me and a fucking batshit crazy idea, which should be interesting. Last week, obviously, we had yet another guest-attended episode. It was pretty poorly researched. We just sort of went for it on the topic of eco-terrorism, but I think it was sort of reasonably entertaining and enjoyable. So hopefully you were entertained and you enjoyed that one. But yeah, as I said, back to me and a batshit crazy idea this week. The idea in question is something which sort of came to me separately, and it's spiraled into what this podcast has become. The original idea was I was thinking about the internet term big dick energy, which is essentially where a male person would exude an aura or a sense that they have a large piece of genitalia on them. And that's pretty much about their behaviors and are they overcompensating or their sense of humor or whatever it might be. That is big dick energy. And I was thinking that Batman has small dick energy, i.e. Batman has a small penis. And you can tell that Batman has a small penis. So what I've done for this podcast is I have ranked 10 superheroes, or slightly more than 10 when you get into it, but 10 groups of superheroes, I guess, in the order that I think they are endowed. So we've gone from the smallest to the biggest. Some surprises in there, maybe some not surprises. If your favorite superhero didn't make it, it's probably because I don't know who they are. I've just picked some very, very commonly known superheroes and going with them because this is an all-inclusive podcast. It's not, if you want to listen to a superhero podcast, then I'm sure there are plenty of those out there. But today we're going to be talking about big superheroes and their big or small genitalia. That's what we're going for. So does Batman have big dick energy? Do the other ones have big dick energy? And I'll explain why I think they have the genitalia which I've picked for them. I've ranked them 10 through to 1, as I said, and number 1 is surprising. So I do urge you to get all the way through, because number 1, probably, if I were to get every single listener to guess, I don't think anybody would get number 1. So do get all the way through, because it will surprise you. So we're going to start from the smallest, and it will be of no surprise to you that the smallest is Batman. Start with him, get it out of the way early. That the reason why Batman's made the list is it's essentially the Batmobile. There's a long running stereotype about people overcompensating by having super flash cars. And maybe there's some truth in that. And if there is truth in that, nobody is showing off more than Batman with the Batmobile. It's a ridiculous piece of machinery that he doesn't really need. And all he's doing is showing off because actually he's got nothing else to show off. That's ultimately where I'm going with that. And also, I guess the fact that he works out and to the point of obsessiveness and goes to martial arts stuff. He does all the martial arts, doesn't he, Batman? So maybe that's a bit of, sort of trying to up himself because he can't get over his tiny wang. Not that there's anything wrong with having a tiny wang, by the way, ladies. Make a note. I'm not criticizing these people. I'm just analyzing their behavior and some of their potential insecurities, which might lead to said behavior. And that is Batman's. He has a ridiculously sort of overcompensating car, and he has to learn all different fighting techniques and is super jacked because he's trying to project himself as a person with a big penis, but actually it's worked against him. And he, in fact, has a small penis. And so, look, that's Batman. We don't need to spend too long on him. We'll move on to number 9. And number 9 is Iron Man. actually for the same reasons as Batman, in that he's overcompensating. He's got all this equipment, got all this kit. You know, if he was happy with the kit that was given to him by nature, then he wouldn't have to do all these things. And look, let's be honest, Batman and Iron Man would be largely on the same plane anyway, because Iron Man is just a shit Batman. And I'm going to offend some people there, but that's what he is. He's not as impressive as Batman. He's just a copy of Batman. He's just Marvel trying to make something which is as good as Batman and failing miserably, because obviously Batman is amazing and Iron Man is shit. Just in addition to that, Iron Man does also have an extra sort of point that would steer us towards the fact that he is underendowed, and that is that he flaunts his wealth a lot. He really does push the whole "oh, I'm rich" thing, and that is again a very well-known sign of someone who is unable to deal with what they've been given. Whereas Batman, to be fair to him, doesn't really do a lot of that. He's quite understated, but Iron Man's chucking money all over the shop. And again, that would indicate that he feels like he's inadequate. Number 8. And number 8 is just for scale, really. This is just showing where Iron Man and Batman sit on the scale as to how tiny their penises are. And number 8 is Wonder Woman. And obviously Wonder Woman is a genetic female. No getting around that. Wonder Woman does not have a wang. She doesn't have one. It isn't there. But what I'm trying to say is that her clitoris is bigger than Iron Man and Batman's penises. So they really do have micro penises. And Wonder Woman's clitoris is bigger and dwarfs them. And just for scale, Wonder Woman is there at number 8 to show how tiny the previous two were. And that's what she's there for. And I thought we need a bit of diversity in this list, which isn't always easy when you have a list determining how big people's penises are. You do tend to end up with quite a few genetic males, but I have managed to shoehorn a genetic female in there. There was room for her because Batman and Iron Man couldn't take up that room. Well, that was a shit joke, so we'll move on. Move on to number 7, and a lot of people will be very sad about this, but I think it's true, and I'm quite sad about it. But you know, this is about the truth and not about people's feelings. So number 7 is Captain America. Look, he's developed this personality, which again I think is a sort of coping mechanism. He's got this really nice, overly nice personality. Again, I think that's a compensation thing. He just needs to show everybody that he's the best bloke. He's got this great personality because, you know, he can't show anything else off. So he really has to push that. You know, he's not a rich man either. So he can't compensate with flash bits of kit or money. So he's had to go with the personality angle, which, you know, is an admirable strategy. And look, I'm not saying he's, you know, the Iron Man or Batman levels of tiny. You know, there's nothing to be ashamed of about Captain America. It's just, you know, below average. You know, I'm sure he can get the job done, but it's just not there really. It's just, you know, he's not packing a weapon apart from his shield, obviously. And the other thing about Captain America is that he's so perfect across the board that there's got to be something wrong with him. There's got to be some sort of drawback. There's got to be some part of him that isn't pristine and perfect, and maybe that's it. So that's why I'm going for him at number 7 in the just about below average category. Number 6, and again, this might upset some people, but again, I think it's true. I think number 6 is Deadpool. And the reason for that is that, first of all, if he had a huge one or a tiny one, he'd mention it, but I think he's sort of somewhere in the middle, hence why he comes in at number 6. Like he would mention it if it was one way or the other. He would crack a joke about it. And speaking of jokes, again, he's got a good sort of sense of humor. He does make a lot of jokes, makes a lot of people laugh, and those jokes might be an indication that he's not entirely happy, or he's not relying on the size of his wang to attract the ladies. And I also think that maybe it got shriveled when his skin's all messed up. Deadpool, he's pretty like shriveled and weird, isn't he? He's pretty pretty gross, like an avocado. I think that's what they refer to him in the film as, like an avocado. And I think that might have shriveled up his cock a little bit as well. I can't imagine his cock came through that unscathed, and it certainly wouldn't have got bigger throughout that. So yeah, look, I think Deadpool number 6, nothing, about average, but nothing to write home about. And you got to pick somebody for the nothing to write home about section. And really, if you're coming to a list of people with tiny through to massive dicks, no one really cares about the average section, do they? So I thought I'd put something reasonably exciting in there. And look, that will go same for number 5. And people might be thinking, oh, you're wrong, his is huge, but I'm not so sure. And number 5 is Wolverine. And first of all, imagine being Wolverine and having your fucking claws coming out and then trying to have a tug, try and have a cheeky hand shandy. Be a fucking nightmare. You'd fucking stab right through. Oh. Imagine piercing your own cock by accident. Nightmare. Anyway, onto his size. Look, he's manly and he's handsome. He exudes confidence. No issues with him, really. I think that's a man who is pretty stable psychologically, and he's pretty stable with the idea of the size of his penis. He's not, he's not flaunting it. He's not got huge amounts of big dick energy going on, but he does, have enough about it. He's not trying to overcompensate. He doesn't do anything to show that he's bigger or better than the next man along, like potentially some of the others would do. Look, no reason to believe that it's huge. No reason to believe that it's small. Might be a tinty bit above average. Hugh Jackman's pretty strong. Although we're not talking about Hugh Jackman, we are talking in fact about the character, so it's a bit misleading. But yeah, I think Wolverine, maybe slightly above average, but in the average ballpark, not noticeably above average. So that's Wolverine. In at number 4, funnily enough, in at 4 we have Thor. Thor in at 4. Look, you just have to look at him to know he's got a piece, don't you? You just have to look at that bloke to know that he is handling a serious bit of kit down there. Properly, noticeably above average. I'd imagine maybe it's not so long. Probably it's not a very long penis, but I imagine it's thick and like girthy. Good bit of girth on Thor. And also, I'd imagine he can call it Thor's hammer. And you can't call your penis Thor's hammer and then it not be something to behold. Thick and veiny. That's what I think about Thor. Like, thick and veiny, but also quite a pretty penis. That's what I would attribute to Thor. Ooh, and it's just hit me right now, standing here saying that, how fucking weird this is, that I'm stirred on my own talking about Thor's thick and veiny penis. I'm not one of those people who writes fan fiction about characters in films. Like, I've always thought those people were quite weird, but actually what I'm doing now is no different, is it? I've reached a very weird point in my life. I might have to reevaluate my life decisions. Speaking of fan fiction, though, if there's any weird porn fan fiction writers out there, then I would very, very much like you to write me a piece. And it's a very niche piece, and I've been able to find a little bit of material about it, but no real strong material, and that is Commodore Norrington related porn fan fiction. That is right up my street. So if there's anybody out there who's interested in writing that, big fans of Pirates of the Caribbean, I would be interested in reading that, because Commodore Norrington is, in fact, the most deep character in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's got the most character development of actually almost of any character in any story ever told. He's probably one of the most in-depth and one of the best characters. He's good, he's bad, he can't quite decide. He's loyal to the system, but he's a rebel. He's in love, but sometimes he prioritizes his duty over love, but sometimes he prioritizes love over his duty. And he's a really complex guy, and I would be interested to learn about how he performs in the bedroom as well. So if there's any porn fan fiction writers out there. Are they writers? I guess they are writers. Then please write me a Commodore Norrington one. If anyone wants to go one better and shoot a quick film, then I would also watch that. But only if you get the original actor. That's a deal breaker for me. This tangent wasn't in the script. I didn't plan to talk about how weird this is or fan fiction, but here we are. So I guess I might just bring it back around a little bit towards what I am actually talking about, which is superheroes. But yeah, Commodore Norrington's great. If you haven't seen Pirates of the Caribbean, watch it and take extra care when you're thinking about Norrington. He's a really great character. So look, let's bring it back. Thor, yeah, right. Thor's got a piece. Good looking penis. It's thick. It's veiny. Looks good. He calls it Thor's hammer, and he gets the job done with it. Fair play, and well done, Thor. Number 3, again, maybe a surprise, but actually it's not a surprise. It's an unsurprising surprise, if that makes sense, which is Spider-Man. Spider-Man would be one of those, like, I guess, nerdy kids who's got like a secret weapon, like a hidden gem of a penis in there. Like he just like sort of like whacks it out. Because he's skinny as well, it looks big, or maybe it is big because it's not covered up by any fat. And he proper just like lumps it onto the table. No one ever lumps their penis onto a table. It's one of those things that you sort of talk about more than ever has actually happened. But yeah, he smashes it onto a table because it makes a thud as it goes. And you go, well, fucking hell, Spider-Man, well done. And that is why his suit is so stretchy, because he needs it to be, because otherwise his penis would get all caught up and it's very uncomfortable. It's like when you're wearing jeans and it gets caught and it's like, oh, that's quite painful. So that's why he needs the stretchy suit, because he's got an absolute monster. And also, what Spider-Man got to he's not compensating at all, is he? He's just a nerdy kid. So I reckon under there is quite a weapon. So that's all I've got to say about Spider-Man, really. I think that sort of almost all speaks for itself. I don't think it's that surprising when you think about it. As soon as you think about it sort of more deeply, Peter Parker has got something to be proud of. Number 2 is pretty obvious. And maybe people were thinking this is going to come at number 1, but number 1 is going to surprise you. I promise. So yeah, in at number 2, we have the Hulk. Obviously the Hulk is huge, isn't he? I think he's about sort of like 8 foot tall. So Bruce Banner, let's say he's 5'7", 5'8", with a ordinary sized member. When he grows to 8 foot, it's going to grow with him, and that's going to be a big penis, isn't it? So the Hulk is going to have a pretty big weapon. So he's going to be able to threaten some people with that. Although I don't know how much sex the Hulk's going to be having when he's all huge and green. And if he was, he'd probably be a bit aggressive, wouldn't he? You wouldn't want the Hulk to make love to you. You'd want him to really sort of pound you. I don't think he'd be very good at the whole sweet love making. Wouldn't be very good at missionary. He'd be much better at doggy, I think. That would be my impression of the Hulk. Not sure many people have talked about that in the past. And again, there'd probably be some fan fiction out there about all of these guys, wouldn't there? So maybe this has been thought of before. Maybe there is a lot of fan fiction about getting mashed by the Hulk. So if somebody wants to do the research for me, because I'm not sure I really want to read that, then I would love to hear if there is fan fiction about the Hulk. So do let me know. And look, and now we're on to number 1. We're down to the last one. And you're going to be surprised. I did say you were going to be surprised. So do hold your horses for one more second while I let this suspension build. The biggest of the penises amongst the superheroes that I've picked is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know that's four turtles. So I did say there'd be groups. But I'm going with any one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would be bigger than all the rest and all the other superheroes. Look, there's countless reasons for that, about their attitude and the fact that they live in a slum and don't care, and the way they deal with themselves as superheroes. But the honest truth is that they're turtles. And turtles have absolutely enormous wangs. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a tortoise's wang. I have. I did the research for this. Fuck me. Turtles have huge cocks. Like half the size of their body. Genuinely half the size. Like, that's not an exaggeration. Like, turtles are packing some serious fucking monsters in there. I mean, they look disgusting, but then again, most penises do look disgusting, but they look even more disgusting than most penises, I guess. So this isn't the prettiest penis competition, this is the biggest. So let's say the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are 6 foot, just for example, a random height that I've picked. They're going to have 3 foot wangs, which is, what, like 18 inches? I don't think anybody, even the Hulk, is taken on an 18-inch. What? No, 36-inch is 3 foot, isn't it? Fucking hell. A 36-inch cock. So I don't think anyone is getting close to that. Even the Hulk. I reckon even the Hulk's, might only be sort of 10 or 12, or even if Bruce Banner's got a massive one, only 15 inches. So, yeah, look, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are winning this by miles. They've got absolute turbo cocks. Absolute monsters. So I'm a bit annoyed because I just realised I missed Superman off the list. I reckon Superman would slot somewhere in between Thor and Spider-Man, between 4 and 3. Big, but not huge. He doesn't overcompensate with anything. He doesn't take the piss or anything like that. He's an alien, so I reckon he's got a pretty decent piece of meat. But look, let's go back to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would suggest that you Google a picture of a tortoise's penis, because they are something to behold. That is the only way I can describe it. They are both enormous and terrifying. And they would be even more terrifying and even more enormous if they were on something which is the size of a human. So do have a look at turtles' penises and imagine that 3 foot mutant ninja turtle cock. That's a proper mutant cock. Mutant cock. Didn't think I'd be saying that when I woke up this morning. Look, we have it. We have the ranking. You can't disagree with number 1. It's science. So I'm sorry if your favorite superhero didn't get there, but number 1 is science. Number 2 is the Hulk. So you sort of got to give me that. The rest of them, up to interpretation. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I'm sorry if your favorite superhero was not given what you wanted, or if they didn't make it. But if you really, really want to have that changed, you can either A, get in touch and ask me why you didn't get what you wanted, or you can start your own podcast and do your own ranking. So that there is that option too. So basically piss off if you don't agree, or come and argue with me about it. Those are your 2 options. If you do want to argue with me about it, there's YouTube comment section. There's Twitter, Alfology2 on Twitter. There's Instagram, Alfology_2. There's Facebook, Alfology2 podcast on Facebook. Loads of ways that you can argue with me or follow the podcast also through those methods. Look, that's pretty much the podcast for today. Hope you enjoyed. I've sort of really enjoyed that in a weird way. It's been good to be back on my own for a bit. Look, there's more guest episodes coming out. They will be coming out, but I'm going to try and keep as many solo episodes in there as I can, because I do enjoy them. If you're a fan of the podcast and you enjoy listening to it, then the best thing you can do is tell somebody else that you like it, because that's the best way to get more people listening. I'm not particularly hungry for listeners, but it's always nice when people do tune in, and obviously give thumbs up, 5 stars, all that jazz, because that helps too. And subscribe yourself. Look, I'll be back next week, or maybe even midweek, but probably next week. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you then.